This one comes from Bad Dad Joke, and it's about Garrett Bradbury. So some good foreshadowing there from Judd. He says the elevation of Bradbury's game is one of the biggest unmentioned successes of the early part of the Kevin O'Connell era. He's currently 6th in center grade according to PFF. This is despite matching up against guys like Clark, Jordan Davis, Fletcher Cox, and so on. Definitely not what I thought I'd be saying when we passed up adding any competition to that position this offseason. What are your thoughts about Bradbury's play so far?
Pleasantly shocked. He has done a good job. In those first 2 games, and I think the first game he didn't grade out great in pass protection. I think the second and third he did have pretty, for him, good grades. For most guys, decent grades. But I'm pleasantly shocked. This guy has never shown anything pass protection-wise to indicate to us that this was salvageable. Nothing. And week 2 was a pretty damn good test, and he did a really good job. So I think we also talked about this on Monday or Tuesday, if I'm correct on that. And I give him credit. And if they have found a fix or a workaround, then this offensive line coach deserves a raise. Because that's a hell of a fix for a previous staff that clearly didn't even come close. This guy was a train wreck, and he's not now. And that is a place where they definitely deserve credit.
I want to pump the brakes a little here, all right? Because, as usual, Bradbury has been really good in the run blocking game.
Yes, which we know.
And still not that great in pass protection. He's been better in pass protection. He's ranked 24th now instead of like dead last or close to it among centers. So he's getting a little bit better, just a little more serviceable. He has still allowed the 3rd most pressures of any center in the NFL so far this year. So let's be a little careful about doing a victory lap. Like, hey, he's fixed. He's back. He still struggles in pass protection relative to the average center and the top centers. But it's a little bit better than it has been the last couple of years, which is a step.
It's enough time for Kirk to be successful.
Mm-hmm. If the other pieces of the offensive line, and they are large. I mean, Ed Ingram's struggling a little bit. They got 2 really good tackles.
Yes.
Ezra Cleveland has settled in nicely at left guard. It's a better offensive line than it's been in years.
It's fair to say this. The offensive line is no longer an issue. Like as far as I'm concerned, it's not how is Kirk going to succeed with that line? That conversation right now, 3 games in, is dead, and I like that.
But it's not perfect. And sometimes the bar is, well, it needs to be perfect, or we can't possibly criticize Cousins. Sorry, Declan, go ahead.
No, you're good. I think the bigger question for Bradbury is, because the 5th-year option wasn't picked up, what do you do this offseason? So let's say he stays put at, a top 10 run blocking center. Maybe he creeps into like being an average pass blocking center, but you can see finally some continuity, some solid step. Do you re-sign him for a reasonable deal and bring him back to, again, remain that continuity to keep that offensive line in place? You got 2 tackles who are going to be here forever. You potentially have 2 guards that are going to be here forever. Do you want to mix that up with the center? I know Tyler Lindenbaum, we got a note this morning, who was out of Iowa. I think he's the highest graded rookie offensive lineman this season through 3 games from PFF. So he's been really damn solid. I think the bigger question is, what do you do with Garrett Bradbury long-term, and what's the decision on his future with the Vikings after 2022?
I am drafting the Gophers center. What's it, John Michael Schmitz? He is the best center in town right now. He is outstanding. I think I saw PFF's college grades. I believe they have him 4th or 5th in the country among linemen. This guy is the real deal. Big, veteran, bulky, tough, everything you want. I'm drafting him
bulky
because I think he's like I think Chip Scoggins told me he's projected mid-round pick, right? So he's not going to be a first-round pick.
Center,
so yes, he's a center. You can find him, but I want a guy. I want him. I watch him. That guy anchors that line, and I want a guy, because that's a term of endearment. I want a guy that can anchor that line, and he's my guy. I'm drafting him.
He's got sand in his pants.
Yes.
Sand in his football pants, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, the next question is also about the offensive line. I'll answer your question, Declan, real quick, too, on Bradbury. I'm not breaking the bank. If he has a pop-up season here, I'm not. That doesn't trump his career to this point. He could easily regress back, so I would be really careful about like buying into 3 more seasons of him or something. when there's other options out there. You can find guys to play center. So, Timothy Anderson, he's getting this from Vikings Wire. So this is either from Judd or Tyler Fornes, friend of the show.
Check it out.
What's most impressive is how well second-year left tackle Christian Darrisaw is playing. On 47 pass blocking reps, Darrisaw allowed a staggering 0 pressures against the Lions, and more impressively, rookie second overall pick Aiden Hutchinson, who had 3 sacks last week against Washington, didn't do anything against Christian Darrisaw. I'll give you another piece of information about Darrisaw. So he has played, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 14 games in his NFL career. He has allowed 2 pressures or fewer in all but 3 of those games. So he and PFF grades him very high. Mm-hmm. He looks great for a guy that has not yet played a full season in the NFL games-wise. This is a position that they thought they had fixed for the long term when they drafted Matt Khalil, and he had a really good rookie season, and then the injury and just lack of productivity, and they've been searching. Riley Reif was a pretty good little stopgap for a couple of years, but expensive. I mean, you had to go pay him a lot of money relative to what Darrisaw's making on a rookie scale contract. So the fact that you may have fixed one of your most important positions on a rookie scale contract for the next half decade, and you might have this guy for 8 to 10 years. I'm getting ahead of myself, but this is really big news for the Vikings if they've gotten this thing solidified for the next however many years.
And how differently do we think about the entire line? Because now you have 2 tackles who are great or really damn good. Mm-hmm. Like that is such a starting point that, with your left and right tackles being anchored in now as really good players, that is huge. That is absolutely huge. So yes, it took Rick a long time, but I think Rick got it right. Like
on his way out, he gifted the Vikings a franchise left tackle.
Well, and he traded down and got Darrisaw with that Jets pick, and I mean that might be one of the best offensive lineman picks in the first round of that draft. Yeah. So congratulations, Rick. You finally did it, and now you're in charge of the 33rd team.
Amazing work, Rick. Thank you.
Thank you, Rick.
Appreciate it. Yeah. Okay, Paul Engelson here via the Score North app says the Vikings are now playing to win for the first time. From Bud Grant to Mike Zimmer, the Vikings have played not to lose. That fact alone changes your mindset. If you're playing to win, your team is having fun. You're playing loose. If you're playing not to lose, you make a mistake, the coach will jump down your throat, causing tension to the point where players hate to practice. This becomes a problem. This fact has yet to be addressed. The Vikings got kicked in the teeth by the Eagles because they are just now getting used to playing to win. Oh, one more thing. I've been a Vikings fan since 1967, and this is what I have seen as a Vikings fan after all of these years. This might be a little bit of an oversimplification here, but I do love that Kevin O'Connell, that stat we threw out yesterday, the middle 8, that the Vikings have almost exclusively thrown passes in the final 2 minutes of the first half to try and be aggressive, get down the field, as opposed to let's run the ball and feel it out. Don't make a mistake.
Right.
Don't make a mistake.
I don't know if that's true about Bud. Like, I get his point, and in big games, he's probably right, but I don't know if Bud consistently played not to lose. But I think what he's talking about is this, especially with Mike. Defensive coaches, it's going to look like they're playing often not to lose because they're basically, their bread and butter is what? Don't let the opponent score, which comes off as I'm not going to be super aggressive. What I'm going to do is try and shut down my foe. I would say that's a completely unfair assessment, though, of Dennis Green. I mean, Dennis Green, when he had teams, and he was an offensive guy through and through, he tried to beat you. Like, he was trying to pile up points. So, yeah, I get the point. And yes, the Vikings have had coaches who in big games clearly have had some issues before, but I don't think it's fair to say that O'Connell's the first one who's trying not to lose.
Yeah, it's the kneel down 98. I agree with you. Denny Green largely was trying to throttle down, especially like 98, and stick it to opponents. But then when you take a knee in the biggest moment of a game, it's like, fair. Oh, now you're playing not to lose, and that's the lasting memory. And Mike Zimmer largely was playing not to lose offensively. Because it was, and he even has quotes on the record saying that he likes to keep games close, which I always thought, you're so close on that one, Mike. You want to keep games close defensively. That's the goal, right? But if you have a chance to jump out to a big lead, and oftentimes it felt like, oh, we're up, 10-0 or up 7-0. Now we have a lead. Now it's time for us to not make a mistake.
Right.
No, you're going to give up 20 points, however it happens, like whether it happens in the first half or second half. You're going to need to score 3 more touchdowns to win this game. And they would go into this mode of like, wow, we got a lead now. We don't want to make a mistake. No, you need to score 28 points. So go score 28 points as fast as you can. Go score 28 points.
No.
In fact, the faster you score 28 points, the easier it's going to be to play defense and win the game. So go, run along now. Go.
So condescending.
Sorry. Mike Zimmer just hate watching this show on YouTube right now, I'm sure, from his ranch in Kentucky. Next couple questions here presented by our friends over at Federated Mutual Insurance Company. They've been around for over 100 years, helping business owners as a great offensive line, protecting your business. They're all about helping you maximize your success as a business owner through risk management tools and resources. And you can find out so much more information about not only the work that they do with companies in Minnesota, but around the whole country too, because we know we have a lot of just sort of Minnesota fans displaced around the country that hang out with us on a daily basis. So check them out, federatedinsurance.com, where it's our business to protect yours. Felipe from Brazil says, how remarkable is it when you use your timeouts intelligently and don't let the opponent score 14 points in the last 2 minutes of the first and second half for a change? Thanks again. Props to Kevin O'Connell for that. Yeah, we kind of talked about the middle eight theory that Kevin O'Connell subscribes to on the Thursday edition of Purple Daily, that if you can win the last 4 minutes of the first half and the first 4 minutes of the second half, you are going to win a lot of football games. And he takes that very seriously. And we had another question from somebody in here this week that said, why don't the Vikings choose to take the ball to start the game and play offense? And they'd rather have the ball to start the second half so that they can potentially have the ball at the end of the first half if they manipulate the game the right way, and then keep the opposing team's offense off the field as long as possible to get them to feel discombobulated and just like out of touch and out of chemistry. So, but it does feel like he hasn't burned a lot of bad timeouts in the first 3 games, right?
He's got a guy. That's the key to life, man.
Yeah.
Have a guy who says, Kevin, don't do that right now.
Do we know anything else about this guy? Kind of follows him around. Looks like I've seen a guy standing next to him on the
younger
sideline.
guy who's very smart,
holding a Madden,
probably played Madden.
controller.
Yeah, you know what though? Phil, you told me that 5 years ago. Like you're like guys that play Madden should be standing by a coach.
Yeah.
So
yep, it's kind of like
you weren't wrong.
You know, in my poker background, there was a shift in the early 2000s where these old codger players who were dominating the game and winning World Series of Poker events, they would go and they would show up to a brick and mortar casino all day and they would grind at one table, right? You'd probably get 30 hands in, maybe, probably not even that, in an hour at a brick and mortar table. And all of a sudden in the early 2000s, these internet players come along that maybe just started playing poker, and they would play like 10 tables at once on their computer. They'd have like 10 different tables and they would just be like, and in like 2 years, an online player winds up racking up more hands in his lifetime than like the brick and mortar casino guy who's been playing for 20 years. Yep. And so he just has this built in. If you're a Madden player and you're playing game after game after game after game, I don't think you could coach a football team, but you can coach clock management.
Right.
And game theory and strategy, because you've actually simulated more football games than most head coaches have, which sounds crazy, but I stand by it.
I think you were right.
I used to play a lot of Tecmo Super Bowl back in the day. The clock actually went like 4 times as fast as a real clock.
Yeah.
It would just be like,
I don't know if that helped you or not.
I don't think it did.
The Madden thing, I think you're right about.
Brad Pitlick says, it's been a few weeks now, and I'm going through action movie rewind withdrawals. I don't think I can wait till the bye week to hear about the next installment of the next Fast and the Furious movie. AMR needs to have its own podcast on the channel, along with its subcategories of rom-com rewind and sports movie rewind. I would also like to formally submit my application to become the Chief Action Movie Rewind Officer. Love your show and all of your hot takes. Do we accept Brad's application to be the Chief Action Movie Officer of the Purple Daily and Mackey and Judd Leadership Cabinet?
That's a different.
Yeah.
That's an interesting ask.
It's
Yeah,
not part of
I
the Purple
agree.
Daily Leadership Cabinet.
No.
This is the Mackey. We don't have a cabinet for Mackey and Judd. It's just
No.
3 of us. We might have to review this one.
We'll take a long look at it.
Okay, Brad. We will examine
Take
your
a long,
resume.
hard look at it. This weekend we'll meet.
We've talked about this. You know, we love doing the movie rewinds, but we also, especially with winter sports approaching here, like we're trying to serve so many different
We don't
audiences
have
and sports fans, and
don't
it
have
just comes
time.
down to like time.
Yeah.
So our plan was after football season, we would bring the movie reviews back. So like Vikings kind of, they certainly don't take a full back seat, but we would have a little bit more time
Yep.
to watch movies and prep these episodes and stuff. So, but we love the fact that the people love those. We started those movie reviews
great.
during the COVID pandemic when there was no sports going on. And we were like, oh, what are we going to do for 4 weeks?
Yeah.
Would it be funny if we just started reviewing movies like they were sports events?
And then WrestleManias and all. Yeah, everyone always asked me during like when they first meet, like, so what did you do during COVID? Like when sports was gone, I was like, oh, we did everything. We ranked everything. We watched everything. I ranked I spent like 30 minutes ranking all the White Claw flavors at one point. Like we were pulling everything out of the bag to entertain everyone.
Yeah. It was a good time. But I mean, that's kind of our plan. We're gonna bring back. It would be fun to do like to have a whole movie review franchise and like a YouTube channel and a podcast feed. But some of it comes down to just time and bandwidth for us. That's why at some point we definitely need a bigger staff. But but right now we're still trying to build this thing. So all right, that's it for the feedback here on Mackey and Judd Feedback Friday. You can find Vikings Vent Line on the Purple Daily YouTube channel right after Vikings Saints finish up early on Sunday. Get up early and enjoy some football with us. And if you want to email the show for a request to get on, it's vikingsventline@gmail.com. And Declan will be getting as many people in as possible. Thanks for hanging out with us. Thanks for the feedback. We'll see you guys next time. Mackey and Judd.